All right. Well, hello, everyone. Hi. It's great to have you all here. We're just about to get started. I know we have some folks filing in, so I'll give them a second to settle. This is the TFTuesday Podcast live recording. If you are... Woo!
Yes.
Yeah.
Appropriate hype levels.
Appropriate hype levels. If you're looking for the inflatables, that is 2 doors down that way. So, I mean, it is also right here. That's true. Thank you. Awesome. Well, hello, everyone. Again, welcome to the TFTuesday Podcast live panel. My name is Zill. You may have heard me before in your ear holes, but I promise I am actually corporeal, and I'm here now. So thank you for joining me. Really excited to be doing this again at MFF. MFF allowed us to have our first one of these here, and now we are on our 4th one overall. So very fun stuff. Yeah. Unfortunately, my co-host Kay Libra is not here, but he sends his regrets. Unfortunately, he had to stay behind, but he told us we'll have some fun in his absence. And I'm really excited because we have a very special person here today who's going to be helping to guide along the conversation and to talk about himself a little bit too. So give it up for Daze.
Right. Hey, everybody. Hey, yeah, I'm Daze. If you've seen my stuff, it's I've been around in the community for a while. I get a lot of commissions mostly, but I've been active in the community as far as, talking to people as well as doing art of my own, doing media outside of TF stuff. So looking forward to talking to everybody here. And, the live is my favorite part of it because of the interaction. So I'm mostly looking forward to the part where we can really open it up to questions and get everybody's input and really make this an interactive sort of podcast. So I think that's the coolest opportunity we have here. And so I'm looking forward to honestly getting to meet everybody more than anything. So it's good seeing everybody here. So yeah.
And you do art yourself too, so I think it would be remiss not to mention that. So, yeah. So one of the things I wanted to kind of talk about with you, because it's actually something we've done 80 plus episodes, and I don't think we've gotten too much into the details of it, at least as a specific topic. But I think TF is really formative for a lot of people in terms of how they want to go into potentially relationships and relating to other people. I mean, I'm sure many of the people in the room would agree that the dream is having a partner who's also into transformation. And I know that that's been something that's been kind of important to you throughout your life as well. So I was curious if you could give us a little background on how that's impacted your life.
Yeah, so I'm lucky enough to have 2 great partners, and both are very supportive of my interests. And I think more than anything else is having that support structure there and having an established communication is more important than anything else in a relationship. So whether whatever way you're coming at it, that communication level is important. So establishing the baseline of what your interests are is actually a really cool way of getting to know somebody. And I think transformation itself is such a, I want to call it gateway furry. It feels like a gateway furry kind of topic where, I think anybody who's just a normal person can understand how would you get from point A to point B? And it's a natural, experience to be able to talk about.
No, I think that's really true, and it's funny. I think sometimes when I've talked about this with other furries, they are aware of transformation, but they're not aware. And sometimes it'll be you really want to be your Sona. Well, how would you get there? And they're oh, I didn't think of it that way before. And then we're the part in the middle where, your face is pushing out, but there's no fur yet. Well, and they're okay, I'm sorry, you lost me a little bit.
No, so and as far as relationships go with that, there's a lot to explore there, and I don't want to discount it that it's all communication and setting up a baseline, but that's the start point, and where you go from there is really up to you. So I mean, there's everything from role play to you have the pup community and everything like that for that sort of stuff, and then you've got just art itself can be really great to experience together and just enjoy together. So when you can share something like that with somebody, I'd encourage everybody to try to share like your interests like that more than anything, because the more people know about your interests like that, the more people are going to resonate with it. And even if they don't, even if you have a miss, like you've still had that opening experience. And that can be really, rewarding for you, even if somebody doesn't share it. And a lot of times with a relationship, it can be about trying to push yourself and push your own boundaries with that sort of things to be able to experience what someone else enjoys with that. So, I mean, an example of that there, and I know this is not the subject of the podcast at all, but I think there's a lot of similarities between like vor and TF as well. And you can see some, there's a lot of overlap. And so like I can absolutely understand, vor furries, and that's a shared experience I think we can understand. And, having that connection with people, even if it's not that direct, similarity, I think can really help to like shape how we interact and how we, resonate with somebody. And for a relationship, I know that can be really opening and good.
I'm curious, obviously the dynamics of a relationship will interplay a little bit with the dynamics of different TF scenarios, like the negotiations over who's the TFer versus the TFE, or, maybe both of you are TFing, or maybe you're just TFing a third person, what have you. I'm curious how you kind of navigate that when you potentially get art or you're talking about ideas with relation to transformation.
Yeah. So for me, it's I'm perpetually a TF victim. So I think a lot of people, a professional TF victim, sure. So I think a lot of people can resonate with that and understand like wanting to be the TF victim. But I think yes, exactly. Yeah. And being able to experience both sides of it, I think, is important, although I am a little bit selfish with how much I do just the TF victim side of it. But for me, a cool way of breaking it out is I like to have a character I can kind of like associate with, I don't know, TFer versus TFE. So human sort of Sona, very TFE and very, something's going to happen. They're going to pick up the cursed artifact. They're going to piss off some ancient god. They're going to do something like that. But I think with, other characters, you have the opportunity to explore, other ways of interacting with the world. So, like, it's just like making a D&D character and having a different sort of, like, persona you get to adopt. It's just like that. And so like having a TFer character who's, whether they're your like potion dealer or your shady little warlock character or something like that, it can be a fun way of exploring that with somebody, of having some way to disconnect from yourself if like you're specifically interested in just the TF, like being TF aspect of it, being able to put yourself in like another persona to be able to like have that sort of interaction of yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I'm curious as well then, do you explore a lot of the like post-TF as well potentially, or are you just focused like on the process when it comes to like navigating it within the context of your relationships?
No, post-TF is some of my favorite stuff, and it has become in more recent years. I think originally I was in the band camp of, poof TF is the worst thing ever. Like, I don't want any poof TF. I don't want any, like, I need all the process all the time. I want the mid shots only. Now, I don't know, exploring the post of everything is really interesting and rewarding because, I mean, if you think about it, that's the majority of the experience. And like the fallout of everything can be really fun to explore. And it's not all about just the change itself, but also like, what do I do now? How do I walk with 4 hooves and this big belly? And, how do I flap these wings to be able to get off the ground? Oh no, I've got little stick legs. I have to hop around everywhere. Yeah. So
yeah, no, that's so true. There is so much to kind of explore within it. I'm curious, when you first were like, I guess, getting into your relationships, how did you broach the topic of transformation? Because I know at least with one of your partners that was already kind of a given, but I don't think that was always the case.
No, so I was super insulated at first. I actually scrubbed the slate clean, so to speak. I had old TF accounts and everything, and I'm sure everyone kind of has had this experience at some point where they've had an account, they're just like, I'm done. I'm trying to get past this or over this or anything, and I totally disconnected from the TF community for a while. Totally tried to get out of it, but it really was just not like accepting myself and my own interests. So coming back to it was a really rewarding experience, and talking about that with my partner and being accepted for it was really important. And I think that's an important step to come to, is being able to accept yourself and your interests and being able to approach that with other people. And so I think that's an important part of everybody being here today, as well as everybody is doing exactly that. We're approaching our interests with other people and, doing exactly that, forming that baseline relationship. So, yeah.
No, I think that's a great point, and it's obviously really good that, you also clearly forged a relationship that had that bedrock of trust so you could talk about these kinds of things. Because I think for a lot of people, when you're thinking about transformation and talking about it with your partner, maybe someone who isn't necessarily into it, I think the hallmark of actually being ready to talk about it is trusting them with other things too. Like, obviously TF is a very core part of who we are as people, but it goes beyond that. And it extends into so many different other facets of the relationship as a whole. I think there's something really special about getting to kind of explore transformation within the context of that kind of closeness and such. And I guess I'm curious, you mentioned that you had an account that you scrubbed because you're trying to get away with it, obviously referencing, some of the internalized shame and like not accepting yourself. When you came back, I know this is a bit of a tangent, but did you find you had different interests when you came back, or was it just that to Electric Boogaloo?
No, it's that to Electric Boogaloo. I've been such a simp for like a Lion King style since the beginning, and that's what got me into furry and got me into everything TF originally to begin with. So, I mean, it's all coming. It always comes back to that in some way. So, I mean, and I think that's why. Honestly, like, I enjoy fursuiting so much, is embodying a character. And I don't know, that it's kind of the same vibe as TFing, of embodying that character. And I don't know, it's kind of like being in the movie, being in the a show or whatever.
Yeah. No, it absolutely is, and that's a great segue into fursuiting. Well, I thought it was. Well, if I said it was, it was. Okay, I'm the authority on podcasting, obviously. Our ear of glass over here. So, question then. Obviously, you were kind of alluding to how fursuiting ties into transformation and how you kind of embody a character. And we've talked a little bit in the past in terms of enclothed cognition. Do you feel like when you are fursuiting, you are kind of embodying a different person completely, or is it like an elevated, changed version of yourself?
For me, that depends entirely on the character. Mm-hmm. So I think we can have characters that we resonate as ourselves changed, and characters we can resonate as other things entirely. I think being able to separate like yourself like that it's definitely a unique skill. And I think that being able to like creating your own character, not just be yourself, is a skill, and it takes some time to develop. So, I mean, especially when fursuiting for like the first time, I don't think I had like any idea what the character would be. So figuring out like what's different about this from me as a person, beyond just being able to be, totally masked off and be able to like experience anonymity in a sense where you're still fully recognized, but anonymous, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it's like you are being perceived differently from people who don't necessarily know the connection. Yeah. And that in and of itself is a kind of transformation, because it's that social contract that's been changed with everyone. And yeah, I mean, I have gone to see the allure of that firsthand as well. And, one of the fun things you can do with fursuit characters is you can build all this kind of lore into them and like tie that to transformation.
Give me all the lore.
Yeah.
Give me Crossfire. Please.
Oh, do you want to hear Equinox lore?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. So the boy you see over here, this is my fursuit. His name is Equinox. He's a good boy. Not really. He's actually a bad boy. But anyways, my little kind of lore thing for him is he's kind of a trickster. And so he will transform other people depending on what they want, even if they're not really ready to voice that. So be it, maybe someone's really into oviposition, and so he's going to inflict on them a chicken TF. Maybe they're not ready for that, but now it's happening, and you're going to enjoy it, kind of thing. But yeah, he messes around with stuff, and it's fun when you get to kind of put that mask on, so to speak, when you're at a convention too, because I definitely find that I express myself differently when I'm wearing him, and I wasn't really expecting the level of change that was going to happen when I put him on, but it nonetheless happened. And it's kind of interesting. I view him more of as an OC than as a Sona, and that almost elevates the kind of change that I use to express myself than it would if I was just saying, oh, this is another Sona of mine.
Yeah, I think the distinction between OC and Sona is interesting as well, because I definitely have a Sona, and I also have OCs, and I have multiple suits, and it's definitely rewarding to be able to experience the different characters and be able to feel them out. So my Doberman character here specifically is sort of like good boy, bad boy vibes. Good dog, bad dog. Sorry, good dog, bad dog vibes. Definitely has like a side of him that's very like TF-er and very like aggressive, but then also has a switch that can flip that's just absolutely submissive little puppy. And I think that's fun to have as well. So it's interesting playing around with the different characters, and calling them OCs versus personas is also interesting, because I think it's worth it calling them original characters versus just personas. I don't know, for me that strikes a different chord. I mean, personas is a very personal thing and very tied to yourself, but when you call it an OC, I think that elevates it. I don't know, to a point where you've developed a full character behind it, and you can have yourself, and I do have myself, and I have my fursona, absolutely, and that's me, but you also have your characters, and that can be what you TF into, and that's the fun part. And when you have the fursuit of them, it's a fun way to experience that. So and even just a partial can be very, very rewarding. And I don't know, dressing up a character is half the fun, right?
Oh yeah, the fact that you can pick different outfits that better reflect the character and present in different ways, I think is such an attraction to that. And you can really do that with just a partial. It doesn't need to be a full suit. And to be honest, I don't know how y'all manage to wear the full suits, because I have seen y'all and I'm just like, oh my God, I might pass out if I was wearing that. I know it's a muscle you just kind of have to work on, and cooling vests too.
I still almost pass out. It's absolutely you still get very warm plenty fast. So especially when you're in the cold of December, and yeah, everything's heat pumping everywhere. So every break I can get outside, I'm welcoming at this point. But yeah, I'm also welcoming every chance I get to wear my paws, because just being able to do that again, and doing that in the community that we have in a furry convention, super thankful for it, and super thankful just to have I don't know, everyone being able to be here and be accepting of this kind of thing, and allowing us to have the room and space to talk about this kind of stuff. I don't know, it's awesome to me. So I know sidetracked again, but
no, I mean, what is this podcast if not tangents on tangents on tangents?
Okay.
That's just the nature of conversations. But no, I think one of the, and obviously there's a financial barrier with fursuiting, but one of the things that really just did take me aback was how people interacted with me differently when I was wearing the suit, and kind of was really illuminating. But I guess going back again to transformation, have you ever had the opportunity to utilize your fursuits in specifically transformation scenarios at all? And if so, what was that experience like?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, I love a fursuit TF. So who doesn't love just posing their fursuit on the floor and being like, oops, this is a fursuit TF. Why not tweet it? I mean, just a pile of fursuit on the floor can easily be just tweeted as a TF. Like, easiest thing ever. And who doesn't love it? But I mean, other than that, you know, there's plenty of ways of just putting on the head and feeling like you're connected to the character. I don't know if it's so much like a TF thing at that point. It's more the post TF, like we were talking about earlier. So you're reacting to already having the stuff versus being in the midst of it. It still allows you to explore the transformation aspect of it, because you're still wondering what that was or how you got to that point. But as far as like specific experiences go, I think getting some of my fursuits for the first time feels a lot like TFing, you know, when you're unboxing. It's that same sort of experience of like seeing it for the first time and being able to see yourself in the mirror or something like that for the first time. I think that's the special TFE part of the experience more than anything.
I'm curious as well, because I think you've gotten partials before at cons. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, actually, most of my characters are pre-built characters that I've adopted, basically. And I would encourage people, especially financially, to do that if you're open to it. There's multiple suits that people try to relist on Dealer's Den. There are people that resell on Twitter. I'd encourage people to look into that, because there are numerous great characters that have been fully developed that people may just not resonate with anymore, that you have the opportunity to connect with a character in TF. I don't know, TF into something new, and it's a great way of doing it. If you, again, it's very money gating still, but the pre-built characters, I think, are a great way of experiencing that if you're looking to.
Yeah, and I think there's also something cool about, like, you know, if you get a pre-made suit, maybe it doesn't have lore necessarily, but you do have like the startings of a structure based on like what they look like, their species. Do you want to play to type? Do you want to not? Like, there's a lot of like interesting decisions that can go into building the lore if you just have, like, you know, your base of your species and how it looks, and then just kind of going for there. I know that when I saw this boy, I was like, oh no, this is danger. But like, I then also got the chance to build out all this stuff that maybe I wouldn't have if it wasn't a crossfox, right? So yeah, I think there's just something really interesting about that, and how we can kind of imbue ourselves into them while being somewhat divorced from like our like current human selves. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as far as like the pre-made characters go, I've only like ever commissioned one full character myself, and it was even still based off of a pre-made like model that I already had. So I really resonate with you know, characters that are developed, and you get to still build your lore. Like, don't feel like this is somebody's hand-me-down or somebody's, you know, anything like that, or somebody's like thing that they've just put off the shelf. It's very much your character still, and you get to build them however you want. So we had a character that we bought previous MFF that was clearly female presenting rabbit, that we decided to sew some eyebrows on and have them be very ambiguous presenting, and this just very fun, different character that we were able to modify and present ourselves. And it's stuff that's fun like that you can, I don't know, experience with fursuiting. That I don't know, it's harder to modify your own body in that way. You know, there's body mods and stuff like that that you can get into. And obviously, you know, I have tattoos, I have piercings. I've gotten into the sort of TF of myself as much as I can. But I don't know, there's a different level with fursuiting, being able to do that. It's another way of experiencing that, I guess.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And yeah, there's something very interesting about like that kind of personal body modification that I know that you've had a chance to do with like yourself, that I find very admirable, because it is a way to like kind of change your human form, so to speak. And, you know, we've talked a lot on the podcast at various points about like what counts as TF. Does putting on a different set of clothes count as TF? You know, we got a lot of angry responses on that one, actually. But you know, like,
what was the overwhelming opinion?
I mean, I think people.
What's the consensus?
I think there were people who were open to it, and then there were also who are like, no, you are stretching the definition of TF too far. If putting on different clothes is TF, then it means absolutely nothing. And I was like, okay, God, I didn't realize this was going to be a hot take, but here we are, Sorry?
True. Clothing could be cursed.
The clothing could be cursed too. That's true. Anything is TF if you think hard enough and wrap yourself in enough pretzel distortions. Or you can also become the clothes. This is true. Yeah, there's so many things you can do with clothes and TF. So yeah. So Cameron, that one's for you, our vet friend. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the species that people like to TF into, because I think there is a high proportion of people who are into, say, barnyard animal TF, and I know that that's something that you have enjoyed quite a bit yourself. But there are definitely some people, our werewolf enthusiasts and other things who are like, I don't see what the appeal is, and I think that also comes with a lot of stereotypes around some of these different animals and how they're viewed by society at large. The common if you're turning into a donkey, it must be a punishment at all times. So I guess I was curious to hear a little bit of your ethos behind your interest in barnyard animal TF and how you feel that kind of interacts with the norms and perceived notions of these animals.
Oh yeah, I mean, as far as barnyard animals go, I've pretty much gotten them all at this point. I don't think there's not one I don't resonate with, at least on some level. And you talk about the stigmas behind animals. I think that's actually something that's interesting to explore more than anything. And I can understand people saying that they're not into that kind of stuff, and I would never pressure somebody to explore something that they're not they know that they're not into. But as far as you mentioned werewolves versus barnyard animals and stuff, I get the different vibes there, absolutely. But I think with barnyard animals specifically, the sort of tame, domesticated mindset sets in, where you have this sort of I don't know, the mind-numbing aspect, the minus int or whatever, minus int. Yeah. You get that sort of mindset with it a lot. So I think that can be fun. You need to lean into it more than anything than try to just have it be a little side thing. I think that's what's fun about it is getting into the, oh no, I'm actually becoming something that's seen this way, right? Yeah. Whereas a werewolf is seen as strong or scary or stuff like that. Being seen as timid and shy and or totally domestic and follows the pack, the herd or whatever, just totally. You can really lean into that and I think have some fun. So specifically with donkeys, I think one of the funnest things to explore is the voice. And I think the vocal aspect, a lot of the barnyard animals, is my favorite to explore. And I think that is, it's interesting to let out a bray accidentally, oh no, or a ba, or I don't know, all the barnyard, we all grew up with the noises and knowing what every barnyard animal makes. So, the sheep goes by, and making those noises can be, I don't know, pretty fun as far as everything goes. So, bubble out is a good way of putting it. So, yes.
Yeah, no, I think there is a lot of fun that you can do with the vocalization, and particularly, I've talked about this before, but the wordplay fun that you can have with it. There's a lot of puns that you can work in. The fact that donkeys are often referred to as asses, for example. There's just so much that can go in there with the wordplay or the parts that are changing first and all of those wonderful things. But yeah, I think it's interesting that you can find a way to kind of lean into those stereotypes, but also subvert them by enjoying them, I think. Because I think a lot of people view them specifically through that humiliation lens, which, to be fair, is also hot. Yeah, also good. Don't get me wrong. But, I think there's something interesting and fundamentally, queer in my mind, at least, in terms of like trying to take what society is throwing at you and then subverting it by doing that, but still having fun with it. That I think barnyard animals can really encapsulate. And I know we've talked a lot about donkeys, but I think the same can really go for like cows, for example, as well. Cows and bulls, the ideas that people have around, how cows are, and, obviously there's the whole udder milk stuff, which is great, to be clear. So but there's like a lot of views about how they're viewed because, cattle are treated like cattle oftentimes. And when that is used in, metaphors and stuff, like, being compared to like a cow is never seen as like a good thing. Did you find that when you've explored those kinds of changes, there were any specific stereotypes that you either leaned into or tried to subvert?
So I think there was a period of time when I struggled a lot more with image and weight than anything. And I think a lot of people obviously people all over struggle with that. I think some of that can play into some of those species specifically with weight gain and having a problem with it, but it can also be something that you can lean into and embrace and be comfortable with as well. So I think I was at a point, definitely at some point, where that was something that was I was averse to, but something that I've come to embrace more and been able to actually be really interested in as far as something to explore, because it's just another way of changing your body and transforming, and just being able to look at like that aspect comfortably. I think was a big step for me in enjoying like the barnyard stuff more.
Is there any one particular barnyard animal that you find uniquely drawn to?
Oh, I have a donkey Sona. I can't not say donkey, but it's tough because I don't know. We like to we have a red house, and it looks like a big barn basically. So I don't know. We like to assign all of us in our house as specific barnyard animals, and I ended up with the sheep. So sheep is still very good for me. I like the vocalization. I don't know. Vocalization is an important part to me with TF. I think the losing the voice is one of the biggest clip the mic. One of the biggest changes that you can experience that really it really changes how you interact with the world. So that interaction difference can I shape everything.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. I think if I had to pick one, mine is probably cow, but I do want to give a shout out to pigs too, because they're also great, and they have a lot of things that I am drawn to, like, the big bellies and the snout, and, losing the voice, and oh no, now you like the mud. Oh no. Yeah. I'm showing my ass here, but yeah, there's so much good stuff that you can say about them too. And I think one of the interesting things that I find often gets tied to barnyard animal TFs is kind of the concept of cursed triggers and curses in general. Obviously there's the whole joke about hiring a farmhand, what are you going to be doing? Oh, I don't know. Or, you went into a barnyard that you weren't supposed to after hours. Maybe you're trying to cow tip or something like that. Cows sleeping, sitting down, I think. But anyways, besides the point. When you have kind of explored TF in general, either on your own in your relationships or anything like that, are there any specific tropes around cursed items that have really stuck with you and you've really wanted to explore?
Well, with cursed items and with TF in general, I think for me one of the key components of it is the non-consensual part of it, where you don't necessarily want it to start with. And whether or not you embrace it as it comes on or embrace it after the fact in the post-TF exploration or whatever is another story, another thing to delve into. But I think in the act itself, I think with the curse item specifically, I want it to be something that's not obvious, or whether it be it can be obvious. It can be a cursed bell collar, and it's very clearly a cowbell. That's going to turn you into a cow. When you put that on, it's going to turn you into a cow. oh no, but you still don't know, right? You still don't know. It's a dare. Or could it? So I don't know. I think that part is fun to explore, and it's something that can have some stigma, right? Like definitely having something that's not like, it's something that's sexualized, that's not totally like, yes, I want this, is something that can be, not accepted super well. But we were talking about this earlier. I think there's an important distinction there, and it comes in the sense of like being how do I say it? Being comfortable with it, like the coming to accept the change. And sorry, what'd Sky say? Lake, what you got? Yeah, obviously. Yes, that's what I'm trying to say more than. Yes. Yeah. So what they were saying was that they were consenting to that situation, so that made them feel more. And that's basically what I'm trying to say. Thank you, Lay. I was trying to get there.
Yeah. No, I think the idea of consensual non-con is something that comes up a lot in these spaces, particularly given the media that we grew up with. When it came to transformational stuff, like a lot of it was the person didn't want to be TF'd, but then they did, and then they had to grapple with that. And us being interested in that also want to be in that situation. So like Lake said, the fact that we are actively looking for that kind of content and consuming it in that way, I think is, that kind of consensual non-con. Obviously, there's a different story to be played when you're talking about like in-person interactions, but that comes with like the rules of role play broadly, I think, and that's governed by an entirely different set of rules.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think in-person role play can follow the same sort of, well, it can follow the same sort of thing, because having that consensual non-consensual is part of a relationship as well, and you can have that, and that's part of that, having that communication as well, and establishing that if that's what you want, go for it. Please go for it, because it can be very rewarding. So to be able to experience, I don't know, something you enjoy like that with someone else. So TF specifically, and talking barnyard animals, who doesn't want to be called a dirty little pig, or I don't know, so just an example, but it's great. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of really interesting interpersonal angles you can play with that I think are a lot of fun. I did want to make sure we had time for questions. I know we've only got the room for technically an hour, but we can go a little bit longer potentially. But I did want to see if anyone did have any questions. Yes, you over there.
Hi, I'm a kobold, Crystal Kobold. Quick question I had is a little bit of an experience that I've had with TF. I'm curious that y'all have shared in. So specifically, one method that's helped me really connect with TF in a more intimate way is VR, and specifically commissioning a model that's very close to my Sona and very detailed. Right. And specifically, and I hope this isn't too taboo to say, but specifically also with the help of marijuana and substances, I'm able to for sure, just making sure I can bring that up here. Yes. So specifically with the help of marijuana and in VR, and with also the help of also hypnosis and certain other mental changes, there have been times where when I can look down and see my arm and see that it's a kobold arm, it's a scaly arm, and with also those different mental changes, I'm able to completely forget that I'm even in VR, that I'm even human, that I'm even I've had moments of complete species just confusion where I've completely been able to get myself in the mindset of a kobold, where I go nonverbal and stuff like that. I'm curious if VR is a space where y'all have been able to explore that sort of more immersive TF as well.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. No, you're good. Got stuck on Equinox's snout there. So I've had a chance to explore TF within the context of VR. Shout out to my friend Cass, who helped me get set up with a Quest 2. Very generous of him. One of the things that I found is that I do really like VR chat. And I've spent a decent amount of time in there, but there are some limitations, at least in terms of the actual mechanics. So I spent more time in formerly Neos, now Resonate, where there's a lot of ability to like actually have like blend shapes move from one to the other. There's actually like a full moon system that's baked into some of the worlds, where when the moon comes out in the cycle of the world, like certain features of your model will change. So I have Equinox in VR, and I made his fangs come out and his ears got really big, almost like it was like a fennec fox, which I thought was funny. But yeah, there's like a lot of things that you can do with like TF that I find at least in Resonate. So I've gotten a chance to do that. I haven't done any of the hypnosis stuff that you were mentioning, but I have heard other people have similar experiences, and the impact that it can have on some of them, like with their like mental health and like their species dysphoria, can be like really impactful. So I'm glad that you've had that opportunity to, and I know that you're not alone in that.
So I can speak to the other end of it, because I haven't experienced much about the VR aspect of everything, but I've experienced hypno to a degree, as well as everything else you were talking about, and I've definitely had periods where I've resonated with a character hard enough to actually visualize. Especially with self-hypno talking about phantom tales can be a really rewarding point to get to in the process of trying to self-hypno and like bake yourself into that mindset. Meditation is very useful. Yep. Yeah, and I think for that, for me, one of the tail is one of the easiest points to focus on to start with for that, because you don't have exactly. So yeah, it's a fun centering point. So I definitely resonate with that. While I haven't experienced VR to that aspect, I haven't commissioned a model. I mostly end up getting fursuits, but it's another way of experiencing a character. So whether or not you're looking through a mesh screen, or whether or not you're looking through the screen of the Quest, or your Vibe or whatever, you get
some experience. Yeah, I will also say that even though it hasn't been a hypno thing for me, I wear tails all the time, like around in real life, because I'm that kind of a person. And I swear to God, when I take them off, like I will have a phantom tail for a good few hours afterwards. And there's that dopamine hit of that serotonin of, I love this so much, I wish it would stay forever. But then I just put on another tail, because I have like so many tails, because I got to change it up. So. Yeah. Do we have another question? Yeah, we have one over here.
Hello, I'm Arnero, and my question is going back to TF and personal relationships. And I'm curious to know if either of you two, instead of necessarily bringing it up as a celebratory way to have that encounter or potentially share something, if you'll purposefully go out of your way to and mention it to someone to gauge their reaction in terms of judging if this is someone that you want to, engage further with / become friendly with. Or do you think there's not really anything important to draw out of someone's reaction to TF, or that's too eclectic to really...
So just so I summarize, so basically the question is, like, are there things you look for when you're gauging potentially talking to someone about TF first, or do you just kind of have to go in?
What do you judge them on based off their reaction?
Oh, how do you judge them? Okay, yeah. No, that's a great question. I have had the talk before with people. I know, very, very fascinating. One of the things that I found in terms of like reactions is that most people are actually pretty cool with it. I've had very few like negative reactions when I've opened up about it. And of course I am doing a little bit of prejudging in advance of like, is this something I want them to be talking about with me? Or, is this going to end up, in grandma's ears or something? So, I am doing a bit of prejudging, but no, I think the thing that I judge, I guess, the most in terms of someone's reaction is, how it affects their perception of me. And I have found generally that the people who I want to keep in my life are the people who will not only react positively, but might like mention it 3 or 4 months down the road, just offhand. Like, it's not even a big thing, but it's like, oh, haha, that's kind of like a TF thing that you'd like, isn't it? That's the thing that I think speaks to like a true like friendship of someone wanting to like see you as you are. And there's something that's just so validating about that. So if anything, that's the thing I kind of judge or look for.
I think that's actually a really good way of putting it, and probably not what I would have said either. So I think I normally would less use it as a screening tool or anything like that, or any sort of like way to gauge somebody's reaction, and more as something that I can like open up about. And I think there's a different level of openness you have with different people, and different chapters that for me at least, that you allow everybody to read into your life. And if you get to the chapter of TF in my life, you're already a pretty exclusive person personally. So I count everyone here at the very least as someone that I'm comfortable talking to about that. So that's already an important chapter as far as the page of my whatever experience goes. So yeah, I think it's, for me, not really a judgment tool, but more something that I can, reveal to someone as something about myself. And I don't think it's stigmatized, so I would be surprised if anybody was averse to it. I think as far as like interests go, it can be one of those that's just more interesting than anything else. It's not something that's tied to as much, even like negative stigma as furry, honestly. So I think opening to that point can be even easier than saying like I'm a furry in some situations.
Yeah, no, I just want to piggyback on that and fully agree. I found that it's harder sometimes to tell people that I'm a furry than it is I'm into transformation, because it doesn't have the same kind of baggage. And, there isn't a 2003 or 2007 CSI episode that everyone goes, oh, is that the thing? And I'm like, Jesus Christ, we're 2 decades out and we're still talking about, I'm back in the fucking building again. What is this? Like, oh my God. Anyways, was there a hand? I thought I saw a hand. Okay, we have a number, so I'll pick on you there. Yeah.
Hi there. Name's Woodnote, or Pacali the Rito. So my question is going back to media, the conversation of just the media we like, because we all like more transformation in our media. I always like it. And I had a recent experience in gaming where I saw a really interesting mechanic with transformation. There's a new trading card game by Disney that I originally was not for, but it's actually grown on me. And they have a series of cards from The Sword in the Stone, if you remember that movie, and there's like shapeshifters in that, Merlin and Madame Mim, and there's like a series of cards where they care about, you play the character, but in order to play it, you have to return another character to your hand. So it's like enacting the transformation in the game, which is like really cool and unique. So my question is, where have you seen, if at all, really interesting mechanics in tabletop games or video games that you really liked involving transformation? And if not, where would you love to see that get played in that, or just media in general?
I think you're jumping into
Yeah, it's going to be Magic the Gathering. So I play a lot. Yeah, I play a lot. Absolutely. I have a full, with me at the con, I have a full TF deck that I built now, a commander deck that pretty much every card that I could pick in it has some sort of TF art on it. So I will bust that out if anybody wants to play commander at some point. I will absolutely bust out that deck, and I will sell it so hard because, yeah, every piece that I could put in it, it's a teamer deck, if you know what that means. But anyway, every piece I could put in it of TF art, I tried to squeeze into that deck. So there's plenty of places where you can find TF media that definitely, it's not directly cultivated for it, but it's so fun to be able to, I don't know, experience it through that lens. So I absolutely love when card games are able to do that. And obviously there's there's Magic. There's when you were talking about Madame Mim specifically, I was thinking of Villainous by Disney. They do a full Madame Mim series in that card game. That's actually fully TF based, and her trying to like hunt down Merlin and yeah, it's very good. So I think. I don't know if you were talking specifically about Lorcana, but I don't know much about that game. Super interested in any trading card game, though, in general. So.
Yeah, and I will say before I answer, we did actually a whole episode of our podcast on that, so it's in season 4. I would suggest you check that out too. But one of the ones I want to, I guess, mention again because I think it's very like subtle, but I think it's important. Returnal, which was a recent game that came out it came out like a year or two ago, I think. There is a very significant like mental TF that goes on in that game with the main character as she's trying to escape this planet that she's found herself on. And in one of the modes, which is called the Tower of Sisyphus, her external of her suit changes the higher she goes in the tower as she's starting to kind of lose her mind. And there's just something so fascinating in terms of how that ties into her story as a character. So I know it's not like a traditional like animal TF or anything like that, but it was one of the, I guess it was a TF that really stuck with me afterwards because I was like, that's so interesting. I haven't seen it done in that way before. So yeah, I'd pick that one to call out. Questions. Okay, we have a few. So I'll go with the person closer, yes. And then we'll go to the one in the back. Thank you for having questions, by the way.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Buck. I'm into Vor, actually, not TF, but I like TF. TF is pretty cool. My question's related to what we just talked about, or you did. Specifically, have you seen anything fresh, unique, or new for setting, trigger, or anything TF related where you're like, whoa, this is kind of new, fresh take? Can you share that?
No, that is a great question. Yeah, things that are new that I've seen. Okay, well, one thing I do want to touch on. So I am someone who likes upside down TF, which I know is not for everyone. But I saw an interesting permutation recently that was called sideways TF, which I did not see coming. It was like basically it's like emerging out of your side kind of instead of like, head is the rear in reverse. And I was just, I don't know, I was sitting there and I was like, I don't think I've ever seen this before. And someone just kind of came up with that concept and I've seen a few since. And it's not necessarily like I wouldn't say I'm big on it, but it's really interesting to see just from like an anatomy perspective, like how you're navigating that. There's just something in my brain that's like, ooh, that's good. I'm not like, I don't want that to happen to me. I'm not like super invested, but the gears are turning and I really like that it's original. So yeah, if I had to pull out one, it would be that one.
If I had to pull out one that was super original for me that I saw recently, I think everybody's had like what we call a splitting headache, but I definitely saw one recently that was a splitting headache Cerberus TF that I think is such a cool concept of like having your head hurt so bad that it just like splits apart and you have 3 now. Just a very fun concept I hadn't seen done before. Most Cerberus that I'd seen are mostly grown out of like the neck or side, or you're one of the heads, or you merge into the Cerberus. But I hadn't seen something specifically that was like a splitting in that sense. So I thought that was a really cool way to explore it.
I think there was someone in the back.
I feel like I should talk into both mics so that people can actually hear.
Yeah, please.
There we go. I'll do a press conference up here. So we were talking about video games and transformation earlier, and I just wanted to do a shout out to the Transformation Game Jam. I think there's like 26 new transformation games just as of like 2 days ago, just wrapped up. So if you're into that, if you're looking for new mechanics and new stuff to try, they're all free. Check it out. It's on itch.io/I have no idea where.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm gonna put that in the show notes for folks. So when this comes out, there will be a link there as well. But yes, I did see that. There's actually been a few I've seen over the years, and they're all really interesting. So definitely something to check out. There was actually one that I was part of the kind of I want to say loosely artist team that was called To Change that we did a live play of recently. Highly recommend. The tarot cards have people TFing in them, including yours truly. So very, very cool. Okay, I know there's been a question in the back there. Yes.
Hello. Hi, I'm CB, and I kind of have 2 questions, but they're kind of related to each other. So there are certain like TF species and scenarios, etc., that
I'm really passionate about, but that are just not popular. Like whenever I go on Fur Affinity or something, I just can't find them very often. And first question, I guess, is how do you best connect? Connect with people that might also share like these weird, unusual, underrated TF species scenarios, etc. Like, for example, TF followed by vor. And the second question that kind of spins off of this, what are your guys' favorite underrated TF species scenarios, etc.?
Great, thank you. Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. And one of the things I want to say in relation to the first one is I have found that the best way to try and connect with other people is to put out parts of myself through art. And art can take on so many different forms. I've been in this fandom since 2006. Don't guess what age I am. And, some of the things that I think about when it comes to that is how I've gone through so many different like stages of my life in terms of the output I would do. Like I've gone through a writing phase. I went through a very short drawing phase. I've gone through a very long and ongoing photo manipulating phase. Now I'm going through a TF organizer phase, I guess, and a podcast phase. I don't know. I've worn many hats in my day. But what I mean to say by that is in each one of those, I am putting out a part of myself. And I'm kind of like, throwing out a line from a fishing rod and seeing what bites I'm going to get from the community. And when you put yourself out there in a way that is very personal, it can be sometimes a little bit vulnerable, you will get nibbles back. Like people see others putting out what they like and they go, hey, I want to be that kind of a cow. Or like, I really like lombaxes. What the fuck? There's some guy doing a lombax TF. What is this? Like, so long as you are putting out things that you are organically passionate about, I think that connecting with people follows because you will have conversations with others and, get to connecting on the things you like. And then you get to learn more about those people as well, too. Like, because we are more than just our TF. To answer your second question quickly, if there was something I had to say, that I find is underrated, that I wish there was more of, I'm going to say lombax TF. Come on, guys. I need more of that. Come on. Please.
Yeah, I think in general, we want to create what we want to see in the world. So whether that is, through doing the art yourself, whether that is writing the story, or even having the live RP with somebody of just like going through the situation, or if it's a commission, even just like listing out what you'd want and having someone else visualize it for you. All of that can be ways of putting that out into the world. And for me, I think that's how I develop the connections that I have. Is I'm more than anything am a commissioner and have been for years now. And I think being able to put out the content you wanted to see in the world, even through someone else, can be a way of showing what you want to see and cultivating that. For me, people need to draw more bird TF. We need more birds. we need a lot more birds. I don't see enough birds.
I completely agree. I think there was, a question over here. And then I think you next,
Hi, I'm Nick. Hopefully this will be a quick one, maybe. I am a little bit new to the scene, to the community, all this, about 3 months or so now. What would be the best way to follow more content? Perhaps plug socials if somebody wants to here.
That is a very good question. So as the internet has, as things have gone through the inshitification of the internet, it has become that much harder to find content, unfortunately. In terms of where I generally go, I do still check my fur affinity. Going to the browse and then going for the theme transformation is still a good way to do it. There are still a lot of people who post to fur affinity. And I recognize I'm not necessarily one of them, but there are a lot of people still posting to fur affinity. I've really enjoyed Blue Sky as a kind of an alternative to Shitter, as I like to call it now. And I find that there's been a lot of move over of artists to that platform. And, if you follow like different feeds on there or different tags, there's a lot of stuff. Yeah, the feeds are so good. There's a TFTuesday one I made that I think is probably pinned on my profile or something. Yeah, it's very good. So that would be my recommendation in terms of things to find. And then like broadly, if you're looking to connect with people, there are a lot of like group chats on Telegram. There are various different Discords. The Telegrams are a bit easier to find. The Discords are more like you need to know someone who's in them to know them. But the Telegrams are usually public, so I would recommend doing a little bit of mining on different Telegram groups that exist for TF. And if you don't know where to go, you can ask me. So I will always tell you. Yes. And join the podcast Patreon, where we talk about all this stuff all the time, and you can pester me and Kay Lieber with any sort of questions you want. We're on patreon.com/TFTuesdayPod.
No, that's it. Sell it. No, I mean, honestly, the feeds are huge, and I think Blue Sky has actually done that amazingly. So all the content you can get from the feeds is incredible. So I'd encourage people to looking into the feeds and getting those set up on their, following them on Blue Sky. If you're not there, you can ask pretty much anybody for a code at this point. So we have so many codes. So please take our codes. But no, I think that'll be a great way in the future. I wish transfer was still cultivated as it was in the past, because I mean that was one of my like gateway experiences is finding transfer, and I only recently got an artist account on transfer, so it feels like a weird sort of circle to come around to and be able to apply for an artist account on there, even though it's pretty old at this point. But I still appreciate it as a platform that's dedicated to literally exactly what we want. And it's older than Fur Affinity too, isn't it? Like, yeah. So, yeah.
No, I do love transfer. I wish it could come back to its heydays, because for those of y'all who weren't around, it was thebomb.com. Like, seriously. Kitsune.
So first off, another shout out to the Discord. We've been kind of live discussing things as things have been going on. So it's been a great community. I joined shortly after Anthrocon, so just a shout out to that. But a semi-spicy question. Have you ever come across stuff that, as you're showing, it's like, who'd be into this kind of stuff? And like, as you can scroll through their account, it's like, oh, I'm into this.
Oh, yeah. There are so many artists where they have introduced me to things that I have learned, oh, I'm into this. It's happened with some of Sky's work, for example. It's happened with some of Zid's works. I know he's in the back there. There's a variety of artists who have had that kind of an impact on my life. And if I sat here and named every single one who got me into each individual thing, I'd be here for the rest of the evening. And unfortunately, we didn't get the room for the entire evening. But yeah, I have definitely come across specific artists who really impacted me and changed how I viewed TF artwork. And I am so thankful for them for sharing that, because at the end of the day, artists don't owe us anything. I think that's really important to remember. And so the fact that they are being vulnerable and putting out artwork for us to just see, I am so incredibly grateful for every artist who puts art out into the world, because it enriches the entire community. And we would not be as resilient and as amazing as a community without our artists. So, yeah.
Thank you, Sky. Your feet are incredible. Thank you. Very good pause. Thank you.
Yeah. I think there's two questions there. So who wants to go first? Okay, sure. Yeah, Lake, come up here.
No, great point. Artist streams are a great way to chill and vibe. I had an awful week at work this week. I was working 3:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the afternoon most of the week, and being able to come home to some of Sky's streams and be able to chill with that community. I may not talk much in the streams, but just being able to be present with them and watch the drawing, you can not only just study the content or just vibe, honestly. So being able to just be in the presence of other people with the same interests and being introduced to new things as well. Because, I mean, a lot of the people get commissions that maybe you wouldn't have gotten, but, oh, no, now you're very interested in it. So, I mean, I know, yeah, exactly. I know just the other week we had this whole instance of basically a mini sequence of Pikachu plush TF that developed over the course of the stream, where I got the promo image, then I got a follow up, then someone else had to get another follow up to that follow up, and it developed to this point where everybody's getting on the Pikachu vibes. So
that's community for you.
Yeah. So my question to you guys is so kind of a little related to like the whole streaming element and like having artists do streams. How would you say, since it seems we've all been kind of part of the TF community for a long time, how would you guys say that your observations and your perspective has been in how technology, social media, and the internet have reshaped the TF community to the present versus back when you first joined the community? More of a personal question.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great question. Thank you. Our relationship to media or social media or technology has greatly influenced, I think, the directions in which this community has gone. I wasn't necessarily even a concept when this was going on, but, back in like the 80s, there was a lot of video, like looking through like libraries for stuff and looking through different videos and being like, oh, I think this movie might have it. I'm going to rent this one and maybe it's going to have it. And then I'm just going to keep replaying that same 7-second segment. So much changed over the years. But I think at least in my lifetime, the biggest change for me was the advent of the internet and social media. And I think that going from Web 1.0 with the web rings and stuff to Web 2.0 with social media made such an incredible change. And it really opened up the community, I think, to so many different people to come in and experience it. So I have thoughts as to how things have gone most recently with the enshittification of the internet. But I think broadly speaking, it has added an element of community building that we never would have had otherwise.
I'll just thank Telegram, honestly, because without that, I don't think I would have found half the community that I have. Discord is great. I love Discord for the groups that I'm in, but Telegram it enables you to get into these large, huge groups with so many people from across the country. And I mean, I remember trying to cultivate communities on Skype from people I met on FA, and oh God, that was a nightmare. So don't want to go back to that. Thank goodness for Telegram and everything like that. Yeah.
Amazing. I think we are over our allotted time, so I do apologize for that. But just very quickly, thank you so much, Daze, for coming up and guesting here at MFF 2023. If people are looking for you online, where can they find you?
I'm at Daze Changed on pretty much all my socials, so find me there, or Daze Deer Fox on FA. If that's the only place you want to find me, go for it. I've unfortunately pretty much abandoned it, but I still get on it to check everything. It's just not posting anymore.
It's just to consume. Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much again, and thank you so much everyone for coming. This was a wonderful turnout. Really appreciate it. And thank you to MFF for having us back again this year. A big thank you to MFF for that. I appreciate it. We are TFTuesday Pod. You can check us out on YouTube and Spotify and anywhere that you can find podcasts. And my name's Zill, and I hope you had a great time. Keep an open mind and stay TFy. Thank you, everyone.
Fuck you, it's Jay!